Hello and welcome to part two of Parenting on Purpose on Tea Time with Taneki. I am lounging in my lounge chair because I parented on purpose today. No, so last week we talked about, putting our phones down and being more hands-on, spending quality time with our kids as opposed to a lot of time doing nothing. And so this week we're going to talk about, be before you briefly because it's about 10 o'clock. I got to get this finished and uploaded. So I'm going to talk to you about the importance of communicating with our kids. I mean, we are the people who teach them how to communicate, whether we are fussers and cussers or whether we are pushovers and henpeck or whatever. We teach our children. We're the first example of communication that they see. So if you wonder why little Janie got a smart mouth like to roll her neck, chances are somebody in her circle or somebody you're allowing her to spend a lot of time with is that way. It may be you, maybe daddy, maybe grandma, maybe auntie, maybe the babysitter, what have you. So we have to be mindful of that communication because we teach them how to communicate. We teach them to forgive. We teach them to hold grudges. We teach them to lash out. We teach them to throw temper tantrums. And I know some of it comes with, terrible twos, and kids are just, they go through those, stages of life. And some of it is true, but some of that is not true. Some of it is learned behavior. Most of it is learned behavior. Abigail is my 2-year-old, and she is like, no, no, no. And I'm like, she don't get that from me. She don't get that from my daddy. She don't get that from my meatmom. She don't get that from my yaya. Where is she getting it from? And then I sat and watched her one day, and she was watching Barbie. And Barbie was like, you cray cray. And this, that, and the third. I was like, And it goes back to what we talked about last week about, limiting spending time when our kids turn off the electronics, getting them away from TV, getting them away from, iPads and cartoons, and, you laying that foundation, because that foundation would take them through elementary school, will take them through high school, and ultimately it's going to take them through marriages and raising their own kids. And so you have to put down the groundwork of how to communicate. And it's very important that your children know how to communicate, because they need to be able to communicate with you when things are going wrong, when somebody has violated them or somebody has broken that bubble of their personal space. That if you don't teach them how to communicate, then they lash out, and they have this change in temperament and this change in personality, and you're not exactly sure why, because you haven't taught them how to effectively communicate with you or with other people. And so I think that it's very important that we communicate, and we learn how to communicate, and we teach our children how to communicate with one another. The way you communicate with your spouse or your significant other, your boyfriend, or whatever, that is teaching your child how to communicate with the opposite sex, how to communicate in a relationship. And if you take a step back and realize, oh my gosh, now that's horrible, I would never want my child to experience what I'm experiencing in this relationship, then chances are you should probably change how you communicate with other people, because they're watching, whether we realize it or not. They're always watching. And it's not just you don't yell at people or you don't do this, that, and the other. It's a constant teaching by example type of thing, because they're watching what you do, not so much what you say. They're watching what you do. And if you want them to be effective in that way or in that arena, then you have to have talks at dinner time. You have to, when you ride in the car, turn the radio off from time to time and just, talk to them. How was your day? Oh, how did you feel when the teacher ignored you? Or how did you feel when, blah, 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 blah. And if you and your significant other, your mate, whatever, are having a conflict, if it's not R-rated conflict, if it's PG conflict, then show that in front of your kids. Let them know that, hey, adults have problems. We have to come to a resolution of our problems. And that gives them away. Oh, man, mom said that, I understand what you're saying. And dad said, well, I understand what you're saying. And they figured out, whatever the issue was. That goes a long way, because, again, it's not what you say Forgive, Billy. You have to forgive. It's not that doesn't matter to them. It's what you do. So if you tell them to forgive and then you get into it with your sister and you realize, yeah, I ain't talking to that no more. I'm done with that. I'm done. I'm so through. And if you go through that and your kid sees that, then they will carry that out in their relationships. And then they become dysfunctional and they stop communicating with you. And then when they do go through, big changes like when hormones kick in and they start liking boys and they start liking girls and, all this stuff happens, then they don't want to communicate with you because they don't know how. Is she going to be mad? Is she going to take my head off? Is that door even open for us to have this conversation? Because I saw how she handled my sister when she, told her blah, 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 blah. So we have to teach our kids that the open door policy. I think the open door policy is the best policy. You can talk to about anything. Will I always like what you say? No, we're not always like what you say. Will I be there to listen? Yes. Will I give you advice that, can help you? Yes, I will. Will it always be the advice you want to hear? No, it won't. But, that door has to always be open. Mothers and daughters, mothers and sons, daughters and daddies and sons. Those doors have to always be open. But we have to be effective communicators so that we make effective communicators. So they communicate in schools, so they communicate in church, so they communicate with anybody they need to communicate with on a level that is presentable, on a level that makes them feel like they're being heard and they're understood. So if you're not communicating with your kids, you might want to take some time out and get that done. It's a parenting thing. Make it a purposeful activity to talk to your kids, to teach them how to communicate with them, to sit down and just laugh and shoot the breeze with your kids. It's important. This is the first interaction, the first type of communication they'll ever experience is at home first. So take the time out. It's not too much time. It's not too difficult, and you will reap the benefits of communicating with your kids. So it was tea time. Grab your tea and let's talk. Done.